Hey everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I'm your host, Stephen Stark. Joining me as usual is John.
Hey guys.
We were supposed to have Helena Lunstein with us today, but she is experiencing internet problems, and as you can imagine, it's a Sunday, so it's just tough. And she tried to use her phone, but connecting through cell service from Germany is just not happening. So, unfortunately, there is no Helena. Um,
Germany is just
Oh
not
crap! I
happening.
really did that, didn't I? Didn't mute my phone. I knew I was going to forget something, but we'll have her back as soon as we can. She's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and we'll probably do some Lord of the Rings coverage at some point.
Oh yeah, we will.
So, yeah, unfortunately, Helena couldn't join us, but there's still plenty to talk about, and maybe that just means we can watch the chat a little more closely than I usually get to. So, yeah, here we go. Mandalorian episodes 5 through 8. Um, I finished my rewatch of it this morning, and I enjoyed it much more the second. Well, I won't say much more, but I think I enjoyed it more the second time than I did the first time. Just knowing where they were going, I picked up on
Mhm.
a lot of details that I didn't the first time.
Well, it's like I said last time. The standalone episodes feel like a part of the cohesive whole when you take the whole season in, and I really felt that uh, watching 5 and 6.
Right.
So
Yeah, I felt like they did fit with the rest of the narrative more than I maybe felt the first time.
mhm.
But yeah, so I guess the my intent is to kind of just go chronologically through the episodes.
Yeah, I've got some stuff written down here, so I think we
Okay.
can do that. I'll just start off by saying I get the feeling that I probably like this, that I like episode 5 more than you do, Stephen. It was actually the first episode after the premiere that I felt fit really well inside the shorter runtime. Um, and I think a lot of that has to do with and that Dave Filoni wrote and directed this episode because I feel like he's comfortable in that format, having worked on Clone Wars. So I don't know. It just everything where the episode didn't feel rushed. It felt like it was as long as it needed to be for me.
I agree. There was, I mean, and I still have criticisms of the fifth
Mhm.
episode. I have criticisms of probably everything I ever watch ever. It's just how I am. But it really did work for me more the second time than it did the first time. And that might just be down to I know what's coming later, and I could see some things. And Amy Sedaris is just so great in that role she's playing with that weird
He's
curly
hilarious.
wig, and I just kind of love it.
And I actually don't really know her from anything else.
Mm.
So this is my introduction to her, and I didn't even know who she was. So I heard reactions afterwards. I was like, "Oh, so that was a famous person being cast in the part," which I had no idea. But she was hilarious.
I think there's famous people in every part,
Yeah,
and you know we're not going to talk about the movies really, but let's just say that the movies have been somewhat divisive,
really.
and
I
yeah,
haven't.
yeah, I'm sure you haven't. And but Star Wars is still one of those properties that carries that brand recognition. People want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the episode opens with a space battle, which I kind of found thrilling because that's we love our space battles in Star Wars.
It was really nice. I have a criticism of the space battle. You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. The Razor Crest can get shot like 47 times and just be damaged, and then he can one shot the guy and it's just over. That's a tough ship. That's all I'm saying. It's really tough.
Hey. The Mandalorian is badass, and so is his ship.
I guess so.
But I do like that, oh my God, sorry. People, I'm saying a lot. I'm going to stop that. The the guy who's chasing him tries to say his line
Right.
to, I can take you in warm or I can take you in cold. And Mando's like, nope, that's my line.
I actually thought that pithy one-liner was, again, that's a little cheesy to me, but Star Wars has cheese baked into it from the
Oh, it is cheesy. Yeah, exactly.
right. So I mean, I can forgive it, but like, I'm still gonna make my nitpicks. Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid episode. And I guess we can get into the beat by beat of it if you want to, but one of the things that really stood out to me is this show really can capture that Star Wars feel of those sweeping landscapes and really fun action scenes, and it can really transport you to where it's trying to take you.
Yes, that was one of the things that really stood out to me in this episode, especially once Mando and, hold on, Toro, I have all the names written down, are speeding across the desert. I loved those shots.
Yeah, they were beautiful.
Very big and cinematic, and I really enjoyed that.
And that's a good place where we got a lot of the classic wipes too, classic Star Wars wipes from one scenic shot to another. It was nice. I actually enjoyed that part quite a lot.
And we're back on. Well,
Tatooine.
I shouldn't say back because it's the first time we've been there on this show. Yes, Tatooine, which is about as Star Wars as you can get.
Right. Yeah, it's where it started. You know. Um, I'm gonna guess they didn't shoot in Tunisia this time, but they probably shot in Burbank or something. But
But
it's
they did a
still
great
beautiful.
job. It looks fantastic.
Ridiculous Ed Tollett says he absolutely loves the Tuscan sign language. I thought that was a really nice touch too.
I actually made note of that because it's a different portrayal of Tusken Raiders than we've ever gotten before.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, they will actually barter with you. They're conducting business. And it's like they're not just the animals that that we see them being, that Anakin slaughters and attacks the clones because they're inhuman.
right. Well, there's something to be said about dehumanizing your enemies, and the way certain people groups see certain other people groups. And Star Wars has never been one that took has never been one that took on any of those type of things head on. More they kind of laterally did. Black Stormtrooper, Lady
Hmm.
Jedi's. But I do think it's interesting the way that they're portrayed, both Jawas and Sand people. Because Jawas are disgusting creatures, and they steal everything, and but like there's a reason for their existence and the way they're treated, and there's something to be said about that, I think.
Yeah, I think probably less so for Jawas because they've always been kind of adorable. So, well, you're gonna catch me, Stephen. Uh, they are. So we've always kind of liked them, and the Sand People have been seen as mm, monsters essentially, and I find it really interesting to see them this way. And I thought their scene was really funny.
Yeah, I mean they are portrayed up to this point as purely adversarial,
Yes.
but I guess I can make a parallel in my mind to the native peoples of North America and everybody who came after that, you know. And there are thieves and murderers, and they'll kill you because you're trespassing on their land. And it's even said in the episode, well, they think they're the original settlers.
Yes.
So I like that even if it's not a central story beat or anything, they're at least discussing it. And that's interesting. So that's more a science fiction trope than Star Wars usually employs, because Star Wars is a space fantasy. Trust me, I know. I asked people.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, the stormtrooper thing. That was actually the first time I think that they tackled that was in episode 7, showing that there's people behind in the stormtrooper mask, not including clones, of course, because we've seen them humanized.
Fun fact, I mean, I saw the original trilogy when I was a little kid.
Hmm.
I thought the stormtroopers were robots. You never saw any humanity in them. Even their voices sounded robotic because of the transmitters they're using or whatever. I thought they were robots.
Well, it's new weapons that are out and stuff on the Death Star. So
So yeah, I had no idea because there were other robots. Why couldn't the white ones be robots? They were just soldier robots. That's what I thought. My 4-year-old self.
no, I thought they were human, but then I do remember the whole thing going through as the prequels were coming out, looking back and wondering, well, were they all clones?
Right.
Is that a thing? And we eventually learned that no, that the clones were different.
Yeah. Somewhere along the way, I figured out they weren't robots. Probably 12 years old or something, but still, young me watching those movies just didn't make the connection. Okay, see, I see Jess says her 11-year-old self thought that too. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Um, but a robot would probably shoot better than a stormtrooper, which we actually get to touch on that a little bit, a couple of times as we move forward.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to talk about, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
Um, so what do I next?
Okay. So
Okay, so Mando lands, and this is one thing that there's a couple odd touches with this throughout the series, which I don't. I'm not going to rag on it too much, but I do find it curious. Is that Mando leaves Baby Yoda with a lot of people.
yes, he does. He is not dad of the year. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, so in this case, first he leaves the baby alone on the ship, which I find it hilarious that he thinks that's going to fly with Baby Yoda, seeing as how he's always followed him before. And when Baby Yoda comes out of the ship, it's actually one of my favorite moments from the episode. You can see like he's sad that he's been left behind.
Right.
I just think that's adorable.
Yeah. But I guess if you're going to leave him with someone, like Space Mom, and she kind of does have that feel like, you know, like your best friend's mom, you know. Oh, here, you want something to eat? Oh, here, aren't you cute? So,
I guess my only concern would be if a bounty hunter comes looking
right,
for the baby, this person is not really going to be able to protect him against that. But it's story economy, basically.
right.
Somebody needs to watch the baby so that Mando can go off and do the cool things.
She's going to come back. I feel almost certain because that character was really fun and interesting.
There's a lot of characters that I want to come back from this season, and I hope they're not just one-offs.
Well, some of them definitely will come back. We know that from production stuff for that. Season 2 has basically probably already been shot at this point, and they're just in post, which the show is going to have a lot of post production time.
Mm. I do want to mention that as after Mando lands, I have to mention the little pit droids, which I loved. I am going to catch a lot of grief for this, but I am a fan of Episode 1.
Okay. You're not going to get grief from me. I don't love it, but over the years, I have learned to appreciate it for what it is. I don't love it. That would be a lie. Jar Jar still annoys me. I can't help that. But like, Darth Maul is awesome. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in that movie are great. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but anyway, so the pit droids bring some of that nostalgia back for me.
I thought they were funny. Like they were like terrified of him and stuff.
Yeah, they come towards the ship, and he just goes ahead and shoots at them. It's like, I know you hate droids, but they're just little cute ones.
My mom is giving away all the secrets of my young life in the chat, apparently. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate you. Sorry, I just totally derailed the conversation with that, but
that's fine.
So I did enjoy the pit droids. They were fun. They had personality. This was probably one of the funnier episodes, although it kind of had its dark moments too. But I thought the sense of humor in this was really good.
Yeah, all our stuff with the baby, and and you and I are gonna wait for the Mandalorian to return, and then I'm extra.
It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
And for the record, her character's name is Peli Motto.
Peli. I knew the Peli part because she says her name, Peli, at one point. But yeah, then I guess after he meets Peli and has his shenanigans with pit droids, he meets Toro Calican, who hires him to go after Finnick Shand with him.
Yeah, which a bit of trivia. He is played by Jake Cannavale, who is the son of Bobby Cannavale, who, if any of you have seen Boardwalk Empire, you probably know he came in season 3, and he's in a lot of mobster movies.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the name off the top of my head,
but I could see the resemblance.
Okay.
He came on screen, and I found him to be an interesting character. He's in way over his head, and we see that kind of throughout.
Yeah. And a total, I mean, not to jump to the end, but kind of a snake, man. Just like totally willing to backstab you, which makes for an interesting character, at least. But
again, he's so in over his head that he thinks that he's going to be able to pull off a double cross and and come out on top, and he is so not equipped for that. Not against the Mandalorian.
Right.
But he does get the better of Fennec.
Yeah.
Which takes her
with her hands bound.
Well, yes, but she totally doesn't see it coming.
Because she doesn't believe he's actually that big of a snake.
Exactly.
Like, his success or failure as a bounty hunter is going to be predicated on his ability to get people to trust him and then backstab them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like.
Okay, and he meets him in the cantina, which is the same cantina that we all know from Star Wars.
It is literally the Mos Eisley Cantina.
And I love the fact that it's now bartended by a droid.
Right?
Which is
we don't allow their kind here. Yep, pretty good stuff. Hey, man, droid rights.
Oh, by the way, I'm going through my checklist, but by all means, if you want to expand on something, just stop me.
I will. I'm going to save my stuff for the one that I love the most, which was episode 7. Yeah, I made a crap.
Okay, so let's go ahead and say go after Fennec and let's talk about Ming-Na Wen a bit, because the first time I saw this, I was a little disappointed because I felt she was underutilized, but I really liked her portrayal on the second viewing.
Yeah. I probably had just about the same experience, and I recognized her immediately too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
because she's so good, you want her to be in more of it.
Well, it's possible she's not dead.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that when we get to the end. But
Yeah,
we're operating under the assumption.
Yeah, she probably is.
She doesn't make it. It is, gut wrenching that she's not in more, because she's so cool. I've loved her ever since, this one of the worst examples of a movie I can come up with, but I have loved her ever since the video game adaptation Street Fighter, which she was in.
Right.
And
she was Joy Luck Club. She was so good in that.
And of course, she's been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love her in.
Yeah.
And she's actually a martial artist, and you can tell because she kicked some ass here. So
she definitely has the action down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
Yeah, because just again, the speeder bike attack at night to get to her was really fun to watch. With the darkness and then the bright flashes, blaster bolts, explosions, the flares to make to blind her. I thought it was fun action scene.
Yeah, visually it was really interesting. You're always looking for the kind of stuff that doesn't look familiar, and as an action sequence, I really liked what they did with this.
Right, me too.
She mentioned, okay, so let's talk about her trying to get the upper hand once she's been captured. She, right off the bat, gets the sensation that maybe this Mandalorian is the one who's on the run from the bomb. So she brings that up to try and plant the seeds of betrayal between him and, sorry, I'm going to be looking up names, and Toro. So right off the bat, she's trying to get the upper hand with them.
Yeah. Well, when your hands are bound and you have no other choice, you use your words. But she gives the wrong words to the wrong person, man.
And it, honest to God, it fooled me when I was watching the episode, because I expected Toro to get killed in that scene, because I just didn't think he was that smart or that sleazy.
Right. Again, I just think he's such an interesting. I liked that character so much more in the second viewing, just knowing what a snake he was and watching him be charismatic enough to throw people off. Even Ming-Na Wen, even the Mandalorian.
Yeah, this episode was a really nice examination of sort of morality and the difference between someone like Toro and the Mandalorian.
Right. You're right. And that is the type of thing that I really do enjoy seeing in my different media. I do like sort of exploring ethics and morals. I mean, anybody that's come to any of my con panels know that's the one thing I hardly shut up about. Yeah, I thought it was a nice dichotomy, because as a bounty hunter / mercenary / whatever you want to call him, he walks a very fine line to not become a completely immoral character.
I mean, that's essentially what this season has been about, is his morality and the fact that he couldn't live with giving over Baby Yoda.
Right, and it will culminate in our understanding is his dedication to the creed and what the Mandalorian creed is. We don't know what it is, say like word for word, but we have we can see it in action, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So anyway, um, he bites off more than he could chew though when he grabs Baby Yoda, and anyway, he gets his in the end. Toro does.
Which doesn't come as a huge surprise,
No.
obviously, but it is interesting to watch.
Right. Oh yeah, I thought it was very interesting to watch. Again, I guess I just maybe I had binged too much at that point up to episode 5. I did enjoy it much more the second time. I felt the tension more, but I had forgotten that Toro died at the end of it. For whatever reason, I had forgotten. So I was because I was watching the episode, yeah, going, yeah, whatever happened to that guy? I don't remember. Well, he got dragged out to Beggar's Canyon by a bunch of pit droids.
Which is what you get when you make immoral decisions like that. At least, in this scenario and in this show, I don't think we can say the same when it comes to something like Game of Thrones, where the immoral characters flourish.
Right.
But yeah, let me feel like I want to slow down a little bit because we've kind of raced towards the end here.
Right.
I wanted to make comments about, when Fennec is trying to persuade him and to let her go, she says the words, make the best deal for yourself and survive, which is the absolute wrong thing that she could have said.
Right.
If she doesn't anticipate his next move, and it's a fatal decision.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because, like you say, Ming-Na Wen is so great. I recognized her immediately. Maybe not just from the eyes, but as soon as that helmet came off, I was like, oh crap, that's Ming-Na Wen. And the second time I was looking at the bounty puck, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is her.
And I feel like they showed her off in one of the trailers or TV spots for the show.
I don't recall that. I don't watch a lot of promotional materials. I usually watch 1 or 2 trailers for something, and then I quit watching stuff because.
And I thought it was unfortunate they did that because I guess in your case it didn't really matter, but for me, once they show Ming-Na Wen, I expect, oh wow, she's going to be in the show, not she's
Right.
going to have a guest spot in one of the episodes.
Well, that's probably the mindset we should have for everybody that shows up moving forward.
Yeah.
Because there's literally only 2 people that I know for sure from season 1 or in season 2. Well, other than the title character,
I thought you were going to say only 2 people that I know are going to be in each episode, which would have been Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
No. Excluding those 2 because they're the central part. I don't guess it's a spoiler. It's out there. Gina Carano and Carl Weathers will both be back for season 2 at some point.
I'm going to talk about that when we get to the finale.
Okay, great. Should we move on to episode 6?
Wait. We forgot.
Okay.
There's a mystery figure at the end of this.
Oh, episode. There is. I know who it is, though.
Okay, well, don't tell me.
Well, I only know who it is because I was paused it and looked at the boots and.
Okay, yeah, don't do that.
Okay.
I don't like what I'd call a screenshot analysis.
Okay, I'll keep it to myself.
But it's great because I thought it was, when I was watching this, anticipating Giancarlo Esposito, I thought it was supposed to be Moff Gideon. But looking back, it's definitely not him.
Are you sure?
I don't think so.
I think it is.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think it is.
I think it is. Well, I
Oh,
guess.
we are at a standstill.
Okay. Well, we'll hold on. I'm sure I've got a sharp stick around here somewhere I can fight you with. Um, no big surprise. John and I have a different opinion on something that's unproven,
Because
but
I think it's much more interesting than that. I think we've been
it's
teased with
possible.
something that's not going to pay off until next season.
That would be cool too, though. That would be very cool. I'm here for it. And if it is Moff Gideon, like they never tied it back to him directly.
Yeah, my whole thing is why would he be following this bounty?
Oh no, he's trying to get Baby Yoda. He's following
But
the
would he be out
Mandalorian.
there himself?
What?
But would he be out there himself as opposed
Maybe. I mean, we don't.
to
We'll get to it later, but he is like a well, he's ISB, which is Imperial Security Bureau, which is like the secret police of the Empire. So maybe I don't know. A Moff is a very high rank, though. Very high
yeah.
rank. It's unlikely he would be doing field duty, but again, fragmented empire. Who's to say?
Because I know
Now you're making me really doubt if it is Moff Gideon.
well, I know I read some stuff. People said they thought it might turn out to be an alive Boba Fett, which I'm not crazy about, but I do think it's somebody else.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We have to make note of this so we can,
Right.
find out which of us is right.
Right.
And the most exciting part of that end sequence for me is not who that necessarily might be, but as you mentioned earlier, perhaps Fennec isn't dead.
Right. Depending on who that is.
Because I'd like to see her come back. I really would.
I would too.
Okay, now we can go on to episode 6.
Okay, on to episode 6.
Which is freaking awesome. I love this episode.
And stacked with cameos. Stacked to the gills with cameos. There is not a guest actor in this episode that isn't somehow tied to something. They're all famous actors. And
there's one that's especially DT for me, and I'll talk about it when we.
Is it a Clone Wars thing?
Yes.
Yeah. That's really cool. Okay, so
I wrote down finally an episode to sink our teeth into, which is how I felt when this premiered, because it's longer. It's not the longest episode that we'll get in the season, but at the time, it felt like a pretty meaty episode compared to what we had gotten, and I love that. It just felt like it was allowed to take its time a little bit more, and it wasn't over in a flash.
Yeah, I agree. It was meaty, and we got to see again the code in action and different people's ideas of how to handle situations play out, and we got to see his personality bounce off a lot of other mercenary types, and
we have a lot of personality themselves.
Right. But we get to see his morality.
Big time.
Right. Contrasted with everyone else's in that group. And it was just, I loved it. I want
to run through some of our early guest casts that we get here. First, the character's name is Ran, which is short for Ranzar Malk or Malk, I'm not sure, who's played by Mark Boone Jr., who I've seen in a lot of stuff. I just can't recall specifically what I've seen him in. And he's great because I'm a fool. I trusted the guy at first because I thought, hey, he's buddies with Mando, so, this seems like a cool guy.
Right.
I didn't trust the others, but I thought this guy's probably on the level. He'll do stuff in his own self-interest, but I think he likes Mando, which he kind of does, but that doesn't amount to a whole lot by the end. Anyway, so the crew that Mando is going to be working with is filled with Mayfeld, who's played by Bill Burr, who I was supposed to see because he's a comedian. It was interesting to see him in this.
And kind of famously doesn't like Star Wars.
I didn't know that. I know he
But
doesn't like a lot of stuff.
like, nerd shit. I don't like that. But like, he killed it in here, and from what I've seen in interviews of him more recently, he's like it's still cool to be a part of, and I'm glad people liked it. But yeah, he's not a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I think I was listening to a podcast a little while back that he did with Conan O'Brien, and I was like, I'm not sure if I care for this guy, but he was very good in the episode.
He was. Well, I didn't care for his character. His character was a jerk.
Yeah. And we also have Jian, played by the wonderful Natalia Tena. And
Yeah.
it was so great to see her in this because I know a lot of us were kind of gutted with the way her character was treated on Game of Thrones in season 6 because we had looked forward to seeing her again. And I say that even as Mr. I love everything Game of Thrones.
Right.
But that's definitely a fair criticism, and she killed it with this part. She was so good. And I've wanted to see more Twi'leks in live action because they're in a lot of Clone Wars and Rebels stuff.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun seeing her, and she just has this,
What a personality on that character. So she's like hissing and screaming and giggling, and like she's like I don't know even how to describe her, because there's a sexy element to her character, but there's an even greater dangerous element to her character, and maybe like a not quite all the lights are on upstairs element to her character too. But yeah, she was my favorite guest star this episode.
And again, this is another character that I will riot if we don't see her again.
Oh, come on. How not, though? How not? Any of them, any of the crew that, well, not Zero.
Well, she has a history with Mando, which is why I'd kind of say that.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see Clancy Brown on the show again because he was loads of fun, but character-wise, I think it would probably make the most sense that she comes back just because she has a history with him.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that explored more.
Right, and now she's got even more beef, wrapped up with her brother and stuff. So it's just really good.
And of course, let's talk about Clancy Brown. Moving on to him, who I am a huge Highlander fan.
Okay,
I have loved him for years.
Yeah, he was the Kurgan in the original Highlander movie.
And he was in Clone Wars as well. He played Darth Maul's brother, Savage Opress.
I remember Savage Opress. I didn't know that Clancy Brown was the voice. I know he's done a lot of voice work, though. And not just for Star Wars stuff. He's done video games and, yeah.
Yeah, I just imagine Dave Filoni calling up all his voice actors and saying, I'd really love you to be in this. Of course, they might be just as likely calling him up to say, can I please be on The Mandalorian?
Right. It would be so cool. Again, it's a property people want to be a part of because it's just got a great history.
And I love the fact that his character, he's got like the horns. He looks like a devil, and fire doesn't affect him.
Well, that's just that Star Wars race, Devonian. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're called Devonians.
I love later in the episode, he picks up one of the droids and causes this big explosion, and he's just standing there, and the other guy is like, okay.
Right? Well, he did prove his worth in that moment anyway.
Yeah.
And we also get a droid character called Berg, who is voiced by
No, Berg is Clancy Brown.
Oh, right. Zero. I'm sorry.
Zero is the droid.
Yeah, voiced by Richard. I can never say his last name. Iode.
Yeah, I
He
don't
was he was
recognize his name. Do you know him from anything?
yeah, he was on the IT Crowd. He's a British actor, but yes, he's very well known British actor. Very very. I mean, he's a comedic actor. Very very funny. You might recognize him if you saw a picture of him. But yeah, voice acting even in Star Wars is great. I guess you take.
Obviously,
I would do it. Shoot in a heartbeat.
some of the best work in Star Wars is voice acting.
Yeah, agreed. But that's the group that's hired by Rand to go in to fetch somebody out of a New Republic prison ship.
Which he doesn't mention at first.
Right. Right. He keeps springing things on it. Aren't you here for your ship? Oh, we're raiding a prison ship. Oh, the droid is flying, and it's always like he keeps moving the goalpost. It seems like. But Mando is probably pretty hard up for some cash, so he's
And Rand says, "Is that thank you mean to say, or
yeah.
something to that effect?"
Gratitude, I believe, is the word. Is that gratitude? Oh, ridiculous. Ed says Deveronian. Deveronian. He's a Deveronian. Okay, thanks, Sean. Appreciate you. Knew somebody would know. I was close, at least.
Closer than me. I had no idea of the name. So thank you. But
There was a great line about when Mayfeld was introduced, and he's like, "This is the best man I know," and he's like, he was former Imperial sharpshooter. Imperial. Hey, I wasn't a stormtrooper, wise ass. And that was a great line. Again, one of those like stormtroopers can't shoot straight line.
which we get another extremely entertaining moment of that in the last episode. Which
Later. But yes, it was a great shout out to that.
And here we find out as they all talk amongst themselves when they're going off on the mission that Mando and Xi'an were in a relationship together, which
were they, or were they just working together? I don't know if it is, or if she's just that person who's like always like her personality could be the type that is always poking fun, always, because she's always smiling and giggling, like she's got some joke. So I don't know if that's a says relationship to me, or if she's just.
You wonder how does that work with a guy who won't take his helmet off?
Right. Doesn't mean he can't take his pants off.
That's true.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry, I derailed my own train of thought with that stupid pants line.
I wasn't
yes, it was a great conversation on the way in. We get to see more and more about the personalities of these people. Like Manfield is the guy who's going to try to push your buttons. Berg is the guy who's just going to try to force the issue, and Xi'an is going to sit there and giggle and make jokes, and
she's just trolling him.
Yes,
this is the way.
Yeah. Anyway, while
they're on the back of the ship, Zero is piloting, and he discovers the message from Brief Karga.
Right, it's highly broken up, but yeah, he sees enough to be like, interesting.
And you're instantly like, oh, that's not good.
Right. There's, I don't know, Zero didn't have a whole lot to do, although I did kind of appreciate his droid flying skills, and also the fact that a droid's just like, I'm doing everything now. No warning, just now.
Well, also, he's a means of further illustrating and harping on this idea that Mando hates droids.
Yeah.
And so this is just another way to reinforce that.
Yeah.
And it obviously does not sit well with him that the droid is going to be piloting his ship.
Although, I mean, you did a great job, but again, not even a proper countdown, as Shion says. But yeah, then they make it into the prison ship, and
But not before making a little discovery in the ship.
right, it is Baby Yoda found. Um, the line, "Did you two make that?" What? Thank you, Bill Burr, or the writers of this episode, or thank you, just thank you in general. That was great.
Yeah, and then she's like, "It didn't take you for the type."
Right, to have a pet.
Well, you wonder, is she saying that or to have a child?
Right.
So they get to the
Taken that
prison.
way.
Oh,
No.
and
Did you lose me or something?
you looked a little out of sync, Stephen.
Don't know what to say. Do I still look out of sync?
What do you guys say? Are you seeing that, or is it on my
Yeah.
end? If it's on my end, we won't worry about it.
Yeah, let me know if I'm out of sync. I'll if so I can drop
Oh,
out.
you better now. Okay. Maybe it was me. Maybe it
No,
was
you're better now. I'm gonna blame you no matter what.
I'm
So.
always perfect, Stephen. What are you talking about?
You're right. I'm sorry. I retract my previous statement. Anyway, yeah. So they get on the ship, and it doesn't take long before Mousy Droid gets blasted, and I don't know why that's so funny to me. When he shoots that little mouse droid, it just goes like flying across the hallway. But it's so funny to me.
It's because he's such a big guy. Why would he? It's like it's showing off how. Look how strong I am. I'm going to take out this little insignificant mouse droid.
Right? It's just I don't know. I laughed the first time I watched it. I laughed the second time I watched it. I do not feel bad for the mouse droid. Yes, I'm a droid rights guy, but it's just so funny. I'm sorry. It's just so funny.
And then
because it's so stupid too. It's like, what are you thinking?
And of course, the rest of them don't want to cause a ruckus right off the bat. And what happens is a couple droids come in and the first shootout begins. And of course, they think that Mando has
run off. But he's actually.
Really, you think that guy's going to run off?
Well, we know he won't. But it was a really opportunity in story for him to show them that he's real business.
He shows them what's what. This is the point where they're doubting him, and he takes this opportunity. To, not that he's purposely doing it for this reason, but basically shows off what he's capable of.
Right. And he does kick every butt that comes his way. I think it's 9 droids total that he takes out. 5 and then 2 reinforcement waves of 2. I think it was pretty cool to watch too. It's got almost like a John Woo feel to it.
I do want to mention real quick, I love the look of this episode, especially inside the prison. Just the art direction and everything is just really nice. It's kind of that, it's not quite alien, but it's got that sort of
right. It's almost
that kind of vibe to it.
It's got almost a to me it felt like clinical and super clean and almost like a hospital.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know, when you're in storytelling that can be indicative of things being too rigid, and I don't know. I'm not trying to read too much into that, I guess. But you're right. It did have almost a sterile feel to it. Is probably the best way I can put it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how we're supposed to feel about the New Republic.
Yeah. Well, they're clearly like, you're right, and there's other stuff in later episodes that calls that into question too. Hmm. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to season 2 even more now, just since you asked that question. Because that side of it has always just been portrayed as the good guys, period. You know, we've never had a real sort of POV character that might have a point of view that the New Republic's not all that great.
And I find it interesting that the New Republic mans its prisons with droids, which makes logistical sense. But if you think about the history of the Republic and the fact that the droids were used by the separatist movement,
I
it's
mean,
a very interesting choice.
battle droids were used by the separatist movement
Yeah, but
because everybody uses droids all the time.
that's true. You're right.
So yeah,
But
I don't.
still, it does create this feeling of, as you said, very sterile.
Right.
And it presents a kind of touch of uneasiness to it.
Right. Yeah, it feels like a place you don't want to be, like a
Yeah.
hospital almost. Not a big fan of hospitals myself. But anyway, um, they wander through the ship for a while trying to find the person they're trying to locate, and they make it to, I guess, the bridge of the ship, and they come across. I'm going to call him Egghead just
The
because.
character's name was Davin, but he is played by Matt Lanter, who is the only actor that I will recognize as Anakin Skywalker.
Right. He was.
He plays Anakin on the Clone Wars, and he is amazing in the part.
Yes, he really is. He's played he's played Anakin way, way, way more than Hayden Christensen has.
Which, by the way, I should clarify when I said the only actor to play Anakin, I am not including Darth Vader, okay? Because obviously James Earl Jones
Right.
is the top. But yes, as far as Anakin,
Right.
no dis, no unnecessary disrespect to Hayden Christensen because I'm
No.
sure he's a perfectly nice guy. But Matt Lanter is what I imagine the character to be.
Right.
He plays Anakin with a mixture of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo is the best way to describe it.
Right. Well, yeah, Clone Wars Anakin is just so much more interesting than prequel Anakin.
So anyway, before we get too much into Clone Wars,
Right.
it was so fun to see this cameo. Let me just hold on. Talk about that for a second, Stephen. I realize that I still have Slack open on my computer, and it is.
Yeah. Notifications still on, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, I started off the stream by not muting my phone. Well, I watch the chat on my phone. It's the best way I know to keep up. But yeah. Um, the I'm going to skip ahead ever so slightly. We can come back if we want to, but they do eventually. No, you know what? I'm not going to. I got to say this. Mayfeld has swagger. He walked onto the bridge, and about 3 seconds afterward, he's just strolling around, ignoring the guy. Nice shoes. They match your belt. And he calls him egghead and stuff, and he's just looking up the information he wants. Meanwhile, this guy is freaking out. He read him in an instant and knew he wasn't a threat. And I thought that was actually kind of a really cool, it's a very subtle character thing, but I thought it was really cool the way Mayfeld sort of handled that situation. He's got swag, man. He's got swag.
Mando is trying to save this guy's life, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because he says you can walk out of here alive, and Mayfella is like, wait,
No,
no.
again. And then Xian just does what she does. She's the crazy person. She kills the guy and then says, "Will you please shut up?" Like
and we think for a second that's
she's a stone killer.
That all works. But then, of course, it turns out, no, that was a mistake.
No.
Because now they're under a time crunch.
Right. But she's a stone killer, like Amos level.
Yes.
Like she'll kill you and she will sleep well tonight. Except she's not sleeping well tonight. I'm just saying.
Again, I just have to stress, I love her character. She's
me too.
Just so good.
And then they get the information they need, and then they go off to find Quinn.
Which I just have to make mention of this for just in case there is somebody else besides me who's interested in this information. Quinn is actually played by now I'm gonna butcher this name.
I'll say it because I looked too.
Okay, go.
His name is Ismael Cruz Cordova.
Okay. Now, this guy was just announced as part of the cast of the new Amazon Lord of the Rings series.
Oh, nice.
And he actually had a part in the movie Mary, Queen of Scots. He played Mary's friend, Rizzio. Anyway, for anybody who saw the movie. But he really impressed me with that. So, and I had no idea that this was him under the makeup.
Right. I liked the character, but another thing I want to make sure I mention about him is that he was on Sesame Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he played a character called Mando. I'm not kidding. And he would teach kids Spanish. He's a Puerto Rican actor. But yeah, he would teach kids Spanish on Sesame Street like 6 or 7 years ago. But yeah, I just thought it was really kind of cool that he played Mando and now he's on Mando. Anyway, yeah.
Oh, you know what? I know why I'm having issues. Hold on. I just realized why there was a delay. Because everybody, I'm operating off of Wi-Fi instead of wired.
Yeah.
So, not to worry. I should be having no more issues.
Okay, I see Jess saying she didn't know he was on Sesame Street, thought you were the authority on Sesame Street. Well, I know because I did research, not because I knew offhand, but when I found that little nugget, I'm like, oh, that's too good. He played a guy called Mando on Sesame Street. Good stuff. What else we got for this episode? We've been going for almost an hour, so let's try to get to the end of it, and then we'll do the mid-roll. You are frozen for me, John. And we lost him. Or we lost me. I'm not sure which. We'll see here in a second. I'm waiting for the YouTube on my phone to catch up to see what happens. Yeah, but it looks like we lost John. I'm still going. Well, that's fine. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. It's probably because he plugged in and then his computer was like switching from wireless to wired. He'll be back in a minute. But it was really interesting to me how there he is.
Sorry.
Yep, the changeover got you.
Yeah.
That's all right. I knew you'd be back soon. But after they free Quinn, you get this whole brother-sister reunion thing. You're like, oh, okay. He looks really cool as a Twi'lek, too. And, of course, then they just throw Mando in the cell and are going to leave him there to die with the X-Wings that are on the way. But, you can't keep our hero down.
Yeah, he makes pretty short work of the droid outside his cell and escapes pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty darn quickly. Like, like a minute or less even. They don't get much of a head start because he's able to get back to the bridge to start shutting things down and trying to create a little home field advantage for himself.
And then he goes through and hunts them down one by one. Speaking of Alien, very much like the way he just systematically takes them out.
Well, Berg was almost too much for him.
Yes. And that's an awesome fight between the two of them.
I thought so too. But like, to me, okay, when you're talking about like action heroes, one of the things that always defines an action hero, they may not be the best fighter, but they keep their head in really, really tense situations. They never get overly emotionally involved. They keep their head on straight, which gives them the ability to continue to react to high stress situations. And Mandalorian's got that in spades. He never, he's a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. Of course he is, but he's always got his head on a swivel, so to speak.
But we've been shown that he's not just this badass who, can take anybody anytime. Because even from the beginning, especially episode 2, we see that others do get the better of him. Actually, even starting in episode 1 when he's almost done in by the blurred.
Right.
So they've taken pains to show us that it's his determination that sees him through, basically.
Right. But the hunting scenes are really great, especially that flashing hallway scene as he's coming up behind Mayfeld is just cinematically. I'm like, oh, this is so good. I was like,
and the way he is going in and out
of the shot. Yeah, it's just so good.
God, that looks awesome.
And like, you got to take some artistic license. Why was he there and then not, and then behind him, and like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I was complaining about.
But that does go with.
It was beautifully done.
The word is artistic license. It's poetic license.
Right. It was beautifully done.
You can do that stuff with film and television, and it works.
Right, because
might not be able to happen in reality. You can buy into cinematic form
because it can almost be seen as a metaphor for Mayfeld's mental state in that moment. Is he behind me? Is he not? Because he turns around and then he's not there. He's behind you now. Yeah, so well done. So well done. But yeah, it
Can I just say, this is skipping forward a little bit, but when it's ultimately revealed that they're all in the cell, I like that the last we see of, and it's Berg, right?
Berg.
The last we see of Berg, Mando is closing the doors on him. And the next time we see him, he's waking up in the cell, just rubbing his head
and his horns are broken off.
Like, that's as much damage as he took.
Right. He's a tough dude for sure. I mean, he dropped one door on him and he just stood back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. I'm trying to get to the end of this so we can get to the mid-roll. We've been going for over an hour already, and we're not, we're not even to the 2 I want to talk about the most, quote unquote. But yeah, there are a couple.
Then he comes up on Xi'an.
Well, yeah, it was a cool fight scene. I don't know what else to say about that, though. It was a cool fight scene.
Okay.
Throwing vibroblades at him.
Okay, well, let's talk something with a bit more content, which I did want to mention is when he comes up on Quinn.
Yes.
Because Quinn is bargaining with him, trying to get Mando to still take him in, and he says, "You were hired to do a job, right? So do it. Isn't that your code? Aren't you a man of honor?" And this will lead directly into the next episodes, where Mando realizes that he can't just keep running away
Right.
from what he's got to basically go back and face the music. So I really enjoyed this line. I felt it was great to sort of my mind's going blank. Set the stage for the finale.
Well, I think every episode up to this point has kind of been building towards what we see in 7 and 8, which really has the feel of a 2-part finale to me, if I'm being honest.
Yes, it's probably the one instance of the season where I think it is a 2-parter. That's
right.
I think you can make that argument for the first 3 episodes, but episode 2 is very much a standalone.
Right.
So I think that 7 and 8 are of a piece together.
Yeah, they feel like one larger narrative within the narrative that's already going on. It is all in more or less the same location. He's not moving from place to place, really. What else? Oh, one thing we have to mention is the X-Wing pilots who fly in at the end of the episode.
The cameos.
The cameos continue.
So we have, and I love the names. We have Dave Filoni as Trapper Wolf, which if anybody knows about Dave Filoni, he is obsessed with wolves, which is why wolves come into play in the last season of Rebels.
Right.
So that name is hilarious. And then we have Rick Famuyiwa, again, butchering the name, who was the director of episode 2 and also will be the director of this episode. He's the director of this episode.
Correct.
His name is Jib Dodger. And then you have Deborah Chow as Sash Ketter.
Yeah, I didn't look up the names of the pilots.
Sorry, that's me doing the extra nerdy mile.
Dave Filoni directed episode 1 and 5. Rick Famuyiwa, I think that's how you say his name, directed episode 2 and 6. And then Deborah Chow directed episode 3 and 7.
And I know a lot of people applauded her work on 3, and I do think she did a very good job on 3. But episode 7 is, she just did an absolutely phenomenal job with 7.
Yeah, I'm sending a message to the chat. But yeah, all in all, I really, really liked this episode, probably because of the big personalities that the rest of the mercenary crew brought to it. Because I do appreciate the Mandalorian as a character, but he's a very sort of subdued character, and there were some not very subdued characters in it.
I think that this show was at its best when there were episodes with a fully rounded roster of supporting players that were fully developed.
Right.
So I'd really like to see more of that going forward.
Right.
And of course, before we close out the episode, he goes back to deliver Quinn, and he is betrayed as they try and take him out, but he is one step ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when the Republic fighters come in and blow them up. Although something I caught on this viewing was that Ran actually runs off screen towards the back, and the Republic fighters don't take out the entire
ship
or whatever. So my question was, is he dead or did he make it?
That's a good question. We don't see the end, so to speak, of that engagement. We definitely see whoever was flying that gunship is toast.
And Quinn seems to be toast.
Probably. But yeah, Ran is he ran. And so I think there is a better chance for him surviving. But again, it's TV, so if I don't see a grave, if I don't
Well,
see a
it's
body,
like, look at the last scene of season 7 of Game of Thrones. By all manner of logic, Tormund and Beric shouldn't have survived. We didn't see them die, so they made it back for season 8.
right?
So the same applies here. If you don't see a body, then nothing is out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I think that pretty much wraps this up. So I think we can hit the midpoint now.
Yeah, I just Anna Iglesias points out that Deborah Chow is going to direct the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series.
Which, by the way, you guys pay attention to this. That show has not been canceled. That was a false rumor that was going around.
Yeah.
And unfortunately spread like wildfire before it was put out.
Yeah, it's still a go. They've got Deborah Ann Chow, who, if you liked episode 7 and episode 3 of this, you've seen her work. I really think she's going to do a great job, and I'm looking forward to it. Got, oh, come on, brain. What's his name? Ewan McGregor.
Can't wait for that.
Can't wait. It's going to be great. Okay, guys, so we're about halfway through what we're going to talk about. So we've come to the mid-roll. This is the part of the show where I remind everybody to hit the like and subscribe and, do all the YouTube stuff. Thanks for being here. I really do appreciate it. There's great people in the chat. I've said hi to most of you. If I haven't said hi to you up until now, my apologies. I'm trying to say hi. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. I never get to watch the chat because I'm trying to pay attention to the guests. But yeah, it's nice to see you all. Shout out to Ridiculous Ed Tollett, top patron of the Here Be Dragons YouTube channel. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you so much. Links are down in the description for all of our Twitter and our Patreon link, and John's blog is linked down there. And go over there and engage his stuff, because we're trying to get John to write more. And
yeah, I will actually be writing something. I'm working on a larger project over the next couple of weeks. For an article. I don't know how many people will be interested in this particular one, but I will be writing nonetheless, and I hope to do more.
Right on. So yeah, go check that out. And I'm leaving Helene's links down in the description. She's a fantastic lady. Again, it was really unfortunate that we weren't able to get her for this discussion, but seeing as how we went over an hour already, just the two of us.
And plus, I feel like it's destiny that we're meant to have her on for a Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But her links are down in the description for her Twitter and her YouTube channel. If you don't know who she is, you can't know everybody, but she only recently started making videos on her channel, like maybe within the last month or two. I met her at Con of Thrones a few years running now. Anyway, she's a great and wonderful person. Her channel is focused on Lord of the Rings lore and content and stuff like that. So if you like Lord of the Rings, go check it out.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of her stuff now, and I can say that it made me realize that I really have to go back and reread some stuff.
She does know her Lord of the Rings lore.
Yes, there is
very well
of great stuff on there.
Yeah,
and I actually got to see her at Con of Thrones last year. I didn't meet her, but I was at one of her panels, and it was about crossover between Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. And she absolutely knows her stuff. And so definitely follow her and check out her channel, because it's great.
Yeah, and if you do go over there and watch any of her stuff, just tell her, Here Be Dragons sent you. Cool. Anything else we need to cover on the mid-roll? Yes, upcoming schedule. So next week, we are doing a collaboration with with Justin Thomas of Top Shelf Fandom. He brought me an idea for a stream where we're going to talk about fandom and fan culture and how how being a part of a fandom is different from most other subcultures. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it.
I'm very much looking forward to
what,
this because I've been interested to talk sort of about fandom in general because we're always so focused on one particular topic on here, whether it's a TV show or what have you. It'll be really interesting to have a larger talk about fandom with him. So I'm.
Yeah. And for those of you that have been watching my stuff for a while, you may know that before I started regularly streaming, one of the first things I ever streamed about, check the channel, it's way back at the very beginning of stuff I ever did, is I did a video called, oh, excuse me, Why Fandom Matters. So this is something that's been an important topic to me, and I'm just really, really looking forward to it. The week after that is Super Bowl Sunday, so we will not be streaming on Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody go enjoy the game of American football. Go watch the commercial. I'm not a fan. I don't watch, but the commercials are usually pretty funny, and I've been streaming every week for 6 or 7 months. A week off doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world to me right now. It might give me a chance to watch something that I don't have to stream about the next Sunday too. And the Sunday after that will be our Oscar coverage. John and John's going to be like leading the charge on that one. He is our resident movie snob. So
yeah, I'm not at all terrified about that.
Nah, you'll do fine. But we should be able to have
unless anybody gets concerned that they haven't seen enough of the nominees. I want to stress that I intend for this to be a celebration of all the movies we've all seen throughout 2019. So if you enjoyed any movies, definitely do come, and we're just gonna have a great time. And we will manage to fit in some talk about the actual ceremony as well.
Right. We might have some silly shenanigans to go along with it, but yeah, we're just going to try to have fun. And then we don't have anything scheduled for after that. So if you want, feel free to tweet at me or John or Nessie.
Oh, you didn't see my little comment in the Slack?
I guess not. I guess I didn't see it. But just saying that we don't have anything on the schedule yet. And if there is something that we haven't covered yet that the channel really just wants to see, well, tweet at me. Maybe we'll throw up a poll and see what people want to watch. So yeah, feel free, or heck, just drop them in here if you're so inclined. Drop it in the chat. Let me know what you guys would like to see us cover. But with that being said, shall we jump back into Mandalorian?
Let's do it.
All right.
So, and this episode is called The Reckoning.
And boy, is it a reckoning. So it really kind of starts off with a proposal from Greef Karga.
Which is interesting because it feels right off the bat, okay, this is probably a trap. But he really doesn't see any other option.
Right.
Because he knows that they're going to keep coming for him. I mean, that's what has been building up throughout this. He keeps realizing that he's going to be pursued and they're not going to give up Baby Yoda.
Yeah, he's been to several different places and they keep catching up with him. Everywhere he goes. We've seen it. We just keep seeing it, and the information about the Mandalorian who went rogue and has a target with him of high value, and so everybody knows about it. So you're right. He does have that sort of like moment where he realizes he has to go back and do something else, do something more than he did last time.
But he's not going to go without help.
No. He's made a couple of friends along the way, and yeah.
And his stop is back on Sorgan, and he goes for Kara, which initially I was surprised to see that she was still on sorting, but I guess
laying low.
Since he's not there, there's no reason for her not to stay there just so long as, again, as you say, she lays low, and she is having a ball of a time.
Yeah, I mean, she's good at what she do. I'll give her that. And as someone who has a not a huge fan, but like a fan of MMA fighting, watching her do her thing at the beginning of this episode, I was just like, that woman knows what she's doing. Absolutely. Like, I don't care who you are, you do not want to fight Cara Dune.
Well, what's great is when she's sitting there and talking to Mando, and the guy she was fighting walks by, and she says, "Come back soon."
Right. Right. That's her living now. Well, more than you don't want to fight Cara Dune, you don't want to fight Gina Carano either.
Which I guess this is as good a time as any to say, because we talked a bit about this last time. She really, really stepped up in these episodes. Because in acting wise,
yes.
Because in episode 4, I thought she was a little stiff at times. These episodes, I totally bought into her character and her performance, and I think she's really got a handle on it now, and I can't wait for her coming back in season 2.
Well, there's probably a lot of Cara Dune in Gina Carano, which helps, you know. But obviously, the longer you spend with a character, the more you come to know that character too. And that's not just true for us who consume, but it's true for the actors who play them as well.
And another thing is that I remember the first time I viewed episode 4, this I guess is backtracking a little bit.
Fine.
But it occurred to me, and this is probably just something innate, which I don't necessarily mean to think, but it shows how we're sort of trained to expect characters. Before the show started, I saw that Cara was this, big, strong female character, and I expected her performance to sort of exude that toughness, Yeah,
it really didn't.
But her performance is much softer, and I think that took me off guard the first time that I saw episode 4.
Right.
And as I grew accustomed to how she was playing the part in later episodes, I just grew to love her performance even more.
I agree. And like, again, on a second watch, when you know things already, there are certain aspects of her portrayal of Cara Dune that just take on a whole new dimension. Like, she's like, not interested, not interested, not interested. By the way, they're former Imperials. I'm in, period. Like, oh, I get to shoot Imperials? I'm in. And like, you might not really, if you're watching for the first time, you don't understand why. But on a second viewing, when you come back through, I understood her character so much more. And God, is she an interesting and probably highly tortured character in her own right. She's got a lot of baggage she's carrying around.
Yeah, as we'll find out in episode 8.
Yeah.
Find out something big about her history.
Yeah.
So, and naturally, I just jumped for joy as we were reuniting with all these characters in this episode.
Me too. I loved it. I loved that they were able to bring back those connections he made earlier in the season. Yes, Anna, you are correct. Cara Dune from Alderaan. We will get to that when we get to episode 8.
We have a progression, Anna.
Yeah. But you are absolutely correct. And just that was I think that might have been my favorite reveal that wasn't a Baby Yoda moment, But yes, Mando also learns that you got to keep your eye on the kid.
I made a note about this too. I wrote down, let's see, where is it? Um, hold on, my Google document is misbehaving.
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. So as Mando reveals where they're headed, I wrote down, Baby Yoda does not like this plan.
No. He does not.
So he takes control of the ship and tries to change course, which I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. And they realize at that point that they're going to need somebody to watch him.
Right. And what better way to bring back Nolte? I'm sorry, I know his name is Quill, and I should honor the character. But
we have got to get that to catch on. Let's hashtag it.
Right. Hashtag Nolte. I'm not the first person to say it, I'm sure, but I just love it. It's so great. And what a great character, too.
Well, what's great?
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself, though.
I just want to make mention real quick. The music, as it's revealed that they're going to see Quill. I mean, it's the Mandalorian theme, but it's played in a certain way in his scenes, which they used as they were riding the blurg in the first episode. And the theme has a certain tempo to it, and they returned to that for the storing of the scene where we see Quill again, which is another thing that just got me really excited. You know, as a music geek, it's like, oh yeah, here comes my man.
It was really good. But yeah, not only do we get back Nolte, we get back Taika Waititi's fantastic IG-11.
Which I expected to get him back, but I wouldn't have guessed that we were getting a reprogrammed version of him, which, leads to a lot of humor because now he's a nurse droid. Or
right.
He will be. He hasn't been programmed for nursing just yet. He will be. But he's basically a service droid now.
Yeah. But that's cool. And there is some subtext there about changing and becoming a better version of yourself. I actually wrote down one full quote of Quill.
Well, before we get to the quote that I think you're going to give, there was one other quote from him that I wanted to mention, which was, he was left behind in the wake of your destruction.
Yeah. I think literally it's the next line that I wrote down, which is, I recovered the flotsam and staked it as my own in accordance with the Charter of the New Republic.
That's good. That's good too. Let's talk about that before we get to mine, because it shows you that Quill is a person who honors the government in place.
Right, but it's also hashtag legitimate salvage.
Yes.
For my Expanse fans out there, it made me seriously. It just made me think legitimate salvage. Nope. I fill out the paperwork and I filed it away with the bureaucracy.
Well, it's interesting because he's out in the middle of nowhere, but he does it in accordance with the recognized government.
Yep.
Anyway, so the line that I wrote down, which comes when Mando is arguing with him about, using IG-11.
Right.
And Quill says, droids are not good or bad. They are neutral reflections of those who imprint them. And this is very interesting because I don't feel that this is just talking about IG-11.
It's literally parenting advice.
Exactly.
I literally wrote down Quill is teaching parenting in my notes. You couldn't be more right. And it's like, I don't know that I necessarily saw it that way the first pass, but the second pass I'm like, yeah, this guy is terrible at being a dad, and Quill is trying to explain how you do it right.
And we see the negative influence that Mando has kind of had on Baby Yoda up to this point, because when they're on the ship and he's arm wrestling with Cara, Baby Yoda's instinct is, violence on Cara in order to protect.
It's what he's been seeing.
Yeah, he's been seeing violence just this whole time. So that's what he's going to do. So this is a message to Mando that he needs to exercise good parenting.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed the way Queel said, I'm coming, but I'm not coming for the money. I'm coming so that nobody else will be enslaved by the Empire. He's like truly an altruist, which is a great character trait,
I think they could make a whole little book of quotes from Queel,
I have spoken.
which he gets one more of those in.
Mm-hmm. Don't remind me. His last I have spoken.
I just love it because he says he's going to bring the blurg.
There's
Mando says the blurg. He says, I have spoken.
Yep. But Anna points out, Force choke, Baby Yoda's Sith theory confirmed. You are correct. But it is interesting that because, well, we're not going to dip too much into Force lore, but choking someone has always been portrayed as a dark side ability exclusively. So he clearly has that potential in him. But anybody who follows the sort of lore of Jedi and Sith and the Force understands that those abilities are accessible to Jedi.
Yes,
but they choose not to use them.
And he also is learning to use all these abilities. So does he necessarily know that it's a bad thing that he's doing? He thinks he's doing it for a good reason. To protect the Mandalorian.
Right, because that's his father figure now.
Yeah.
And I also really kind of like the moment between Cara and Queel where they're sort of butting heads with each other over her, him saying he did work for the Empire at one point, of course, like being enslaved and being forced to work off.
And he's very proud of the fact that he earned his freedom with, right, as he says, his own hands.
Right. To earned his freedom with the work of his hands, which is an interesting way to put it.
Yes.
Oh. So, yeah, long story short, Baby Yoda is not as helpless as he appears, which we get, that's almost a verbatim line from later on. But, so they do eventually make it back to Navarro and have a very, very tense meeting with Greef Karga.
Which I wonder how that meeting was supposed to have gone with Mando just arriving by himself. Do you think they would have taken him out immediately?
It's a good question. Maybe so. Probably, yeah. But he's smart enough to see that in advance, and he comes not only with Cara, but also with. IG-11 is there, and I know he doesn't trust the droid yet, but.
As a matter of fact, there's another conversation about that right before they land. He talks to Cara. She's like, "You really got a thing for droids, don't you?" And he says, "I don't care that it's been reprogrammed. It's in its nature." And so again, he just does not trust droids at all.
Yeah, but again, there's a meta narrative about learning to trust people who you've learned to hate. And maybe it's not super obvious, but as we said earlier, Star Wars never has been super obvious when they try to tackle these type of social issues. They've done it subtly. And here it's a story about a man who hates droids, who learns that maybe I shouldn't hate droids.
I would argue that I will say that I would argue that the Imperial uniforms from the original trilogy aren't that subtle.
Oh, well, okay, you're right. They're not. They are pretty obviously. I'm not monetized, so I don't have to worry about being demonetized. They're very clearly Nazis. Yes, space Nazis. Can't say
But I do see what you mean.
if you're monetized. By the way, you can't say Nazis, or YouTube will immediately demonetize you. But yes,
We're not going to talk about the bizarre.
yeah, we're not going to talk about this. We're here. We're enjoying ourselves. But yes, grabbing my notes again. The night attack from whatever those creatures are.
Are they Minox?
No, Minox are much smaller.
I saw that online.
They are not Minox.
Okay.
Minox are smaller. They also inhabit humid places.
That's what I thought. And because when I looked it up, I kept seeing them referred to as Minox. I'm like,
By
I
who?
think that's right.
No,
Like,
I would, if they're being officially called Minox by Star Wars, I would be actually very, very surprised.
well, it's just on like fan sites and stuff.
Right.
So I think they're probably mistaken.
They're clearly pterodactyls, just like Jess says. Lava pterodactyls. But that was a really cool like horror movie moment, and Kara shot first. Gunfire goes off pretty quickly, but the first gun to go off is Cara Dune's, and
is it her?
That woman does like her people.
I don't remember. Is it her big gun?
Yes.
Yeah. But I want Cara Dune with her big ass gun protecting me.
Yes. Not just her big gun, but her big guns,
Yes.
The woman is built like a brick wall, man. Awesome. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, in the attack, we lose 2 of the 3 blurg, which is really unfortunate. Also, one of the bounty hunters that was accompanying Grief Karga meets a pretty unceremonious end. Carried off by pterodactyl.
In retrospect, we're not torn up about.
No, we don't even know who he is,
But then we have the absolutely wonderful scene which contains the line, "He's trying to eat me."
Right? Oh, so good. Because we have been kind of like discussing the fact that he's a carnivore up to this point. Like even right before the attack when Quill is feeding him, I guess he's a carnivore. But yeah, just forced healing is not something you see a whole lot of in Star Wars. It's around.
Well, we've seen it pretty recently.
Yeah. It's not something you see a lot, but it's more, as you say, in the most recent movie and in this, and it's shown up other times.
Which again, I think we kind of disagree on this because I brought it up before, but I just can't shake the feeling that there was intentional coordination because this episode aired right before the film came out.
Maybe.
And it's like, could it be a coincidence that they were both going to? Maybe. Right. But it's a really odd coincidence. So you just have to wonder if there's a connection there that'll be built upon in later shows and novels and things of that sort.
But again, why wouldn't there be? Star Wars is known for going deeper and deeper and deeper into its lore, and they've got new stuff that just dig deeper into now. And Sean, being a true hero, looked it up and says Wikipedia has the creatures that attack them just labeled as unidentified creature from the
okay.
Book. Which, thank you, Sean. You're the man. Didn't force healing show up in Legends? Asked Anna. Yes, it did some. And it is currently canon too. It's not just Legends, but it's not a common ability. And that might be because the Jedi that did it generally didn't go out on the adventure type stuff.
To actually provide some context, this is not a Rise of Skywalker discussion, but I will say that when it pops up in that film, Rey has gained that knowledge by looking into the ancient Jedi texts. So it's interesting that this is established as something that Jedi were doing, eons back. So it will be interesting to see how that factors into this. But that's a discussion for another time. But it is a great scene because it provides incentive for Grief to have second thoughts.
Right.
What he's going to do.
It like basically changes how everything would have played out from that point on. Because like literally the next note I have written down is that Karga has a change of heart, 100%, because he was being poisoned to death, and Baby Yoda saved him. Which is, hey, he was even saying, this. So this is how it happens, and he was clearly thought he was going to die. But when somebody saves your life, that tends to change your point of view about things.
And I really like the change that you kind of see in Grief from this point on. We do start to see it in the, encampment scene. He starts to drop this way he carries himself, which, we find out in the next episode that he used to be a magistrate. And I think he always kind of carries himself in that fashion when he's speaking to those under him and all that. And we see Carl Weathers kind of shift gears a little bit from this point on.
Yeah, but you're right. He does always have that air of authority. And he's clearly someone who understands power structures. At least, the human side of power structures. Because he understands how to communicate with people and get results. And he knows what the Imperials are going to do and how the Guild is going to react. And, he's clearly knowledgeable about that side of things. Yeah. And then we go in to meet the client, which...
Oh, my God. Okay, just give me a second.
Sure.
Oh, my God. I have this written down as the magnificence of Werner Herzog.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Okay.
So good. And, I don't know who wrote the dialogue for his character.
Okay. But Stephen, I have to ask you.
Yes.
Can I offer you a libation to celebrate the closing of our shared narrative?
So good, man. Every line he has in this whole show is okay, George Lucas we all love him for what he created, but he's kind of known for not being able to write great dialogue.
Yeah.
This is like somebody took George Lucas dialogue, but somehow made it great.
Well, it's always been kind of one of my big laments that he didn't hire somebody else to write the screenplays for the prequels, because he's a great one for stories.
Yeah.
He'll come up with fantastic stories. And actually, in light of what some of the criticisms have been of the new films, I think it's even more interesting to look back and see how original the prequels are, just in terms of story. Like, throw out your complaints about dialogue and acting and all that. I mean, story-wise, there's nothing like them.
No, there really isn't. Except, it's the hero with 1,000 faces. If we're looking at the, episode 4, the original, A New Hope, Star Wars, however you want to call it, it's very, very much like an homage to the hero with 1,000 faces, the everyman hero story. But you're right, it's the same, but it's completely innovative and new in the way it tells.
Which is why, actually, I think Clone Wars was so fantastic, because Lucas was behind that. The show was created by him and Filoni, but he didn't write the actual scripts. He came up with the stories. Filoni and the other writers were involved in actually writing the scripts, and I think that was why it turned out so great, because he had fantastic ideas.
Right.
But okay, so but getting back to, we were talking about the great dialogue. Then we have, is the world more peaceful since the revolution? I see nothing but death and chaos.
Which is links back to the point I was saying earlier, where we've never had that point of view that might doubt.
Which, and you know, it's a biased statement, because from his position, yeah, it's the Empire was great.
But like you can tell by the way he's saying it that there is some truth to what he's speaking about, you know. Peace is not always peace does not equal prosperity, though. Not, you know, peace is nice, but not when it comes at the end of a, you know, oppression.
I mean, ask all the people who were under the Empire's boot.
Right.
You see a lot of that in Rebels, with people of Lothal suffering under the Empire. I don't think those people would say that the Empire was a good thing. So it really depends on your perspective making a statement like that. Was there more order? Perhaps you could make that argument, but order is not a good thing necessarily.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's a thing that it's a way things can be. It depends on the underlying reasons for the order.
And then we have probably my favorite. Well, no, the libation line is probably my favorite, but this is a winner. I would like, wait, no, actually, it comes right on the heels of after he says, I see nothing but death and chaos. I would like to see the baby.
Right. That was a weird shift. But like, how great.
But they say he's asleep, and he says, we will all be quiet.
But like, just the way he delivers that line too is so good. Like, I would like to see the baby. That's something that normally would sound like, coming from most people, I would like to see the baby is the type of thing, here, look at my beautiful son/daughter. Aren't they cute? Aw, yeah, cute baby. But coming from Werner Herzog, it's like, why are you going to, why? I don't want to show you the baby. I don't trust you. He's so creepy. He's so good at being.
And it comes on, like I said, it comes on the heels of this super foreboding statement. Right. It's the weirdest thing. And it's just,
well, I'll be very quiet.
It's such a phenomenal performance.
Yeah. They got a great actor for that part. And unfortunately, he doesn't even get to live to the end of the episode.
And no, it's, you set him up as the big bad of the season, but in the end, he's actually just an underling.
Yeah.
Which makes it even greater, you know, I think. Because then we're introduced to, you know,
Gideon. Yeah, and that guy knows how to make an entrance. I'm just saying. You roll out a few death troopers, drop maybe 50 stormtroopers in behind them, come in on an X-wing, elevator up out of the top. Like, what a boss, man. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, we don't get a lot of his character in this episode, but like when he shows up, it has the feeling of, oh, this is the guy.
And I can't even criticize the fact that it is essentially his character from Breaking Bad as a Star Wars villain.
Kind of.
Because it works so well.
Yeah, I mean, he really worked as the bad guy for me.
He is fantastic, and I do like Kara's line of, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Right? Nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, by underplaying that, you know, putting that against his grand entrance, it really lets you know this is the guy.
Right. Well, we've managed to spend almost an hour talking about this one episode. Do you realize that? And we're not even technically all the way to the end, because the end has maybe the single saddest moment of the whole series,
Yeah,
where we get.
and he gets so close.
He does. But that's kind of a TV trope, or a visual storytelling trope.
It's the way they do it. It's so shocking and unnerving, because it seems like he makes it to the ship and we don't even see him getting blasted down. We see Baby Yoda on the ground. They come to pick him up, and then you hear Mando calling for Kuiil, and then we slowly pan up to reveal that he's lying dead, which I know, and a lot of people were wondering if he was actually really dead or not. I mean, I kind of, at that point, I knew, because it seemed pretty
Yeah.
that he was dead at that point.
Well, he is literally smoking.
Yeah.
And what a great character, and he went out doing his best. He tried. He didn't quite make it. But I agree. I think it was really, I guess, tasteful the way they did it. We didn't actually see the moment. We just see the aftermath. And that's where that episode ends. Guys, we still got a whole other episode to go through. We still, and my live timer shows me an hour and 52 minutes. Think we can get through this last one in 7 minutes?
Probably not.
Probably not, huh? Well, I guess that means we're getting a long one today, y'all. So,
all right,
let's just keep going. I might have to jump out for a minute or two to hit the restroom. I've drank most of my coffee.
That's fine. I was heartbroken for a minute when I thought you might suggest we stop.
No, I don't want to do that. We're here. We're going. We're having a good time. The chat is doing is popping off. I'm not sure what Anna means by Los Pollos Hermanos in space. It means the chicken.
Because that's the restaurant that Giancarlo Esposito runs.
Oh, okay.
Front in Breaking Bad.
Full disclosure, I've not seen Breaking Bad.
Oh, Steven.
Yeah. I tried to watch it, and it was like I didn't get hooked right away, so I didn't.
Gee, where have I heard that before?
Hey, it's a thing, I moved on to something I enjoyed. What can I say?
All right, we have our work cut out for us.
Yeah.
Without sidetracking into Breaking Bad. So, Chapter 8.
Yeah.
Redemption.
Which the title kind of says a lot.
And again, I want to start off by saying this was a full-length episode.
Or very close to what you would consider, yes, an hour-long drama episode.
So I was unbelievably psyched going into this one, because I knew there was going to be a lot to chew on.
And there is a lot. I've got basically a full page of notes just for this one.
Of course, you could argue that the extended runtime is due to this absolutely wonderful opening scene we get that is allowed to carry on for a
long time.
Which stormtrooper humor at its best, and not just because of the obvious joke.
There's a lot of funny moments in that, though, and
they are played by Adam Pally and Jason Sudeikis.
Yes, Jason Sudeikis. I recognized his voice. Just stormtroopers can't shoot straight. He's like, it sounds like a paint can when he's shaking it in his ear, like something's loose in there. I thought it was just so funny.
And they keep
And
calling in to find out what's going on in the city, and it just sounds worse and worse.
Right. Did you get the message? Because I got the message. So good.
But any humor any cause for laughter we get from these guys is diluted because Jason Sudeikis keeps both of them actually hit Baby Yoda in the bag he's in, which makes us immediately say, okay, these guys can die. We're fine with that.
Right. Yeah. We're okay with these guys going out. It's just, I believe that scene was almost there to make IG-88's brutal treatment of them a little more palatable.
Which I should say something about this because full disclosure, I'm stealing this from another discussion on a podcast that I listened to, but it is something to bring up, I think. Obviously, the creators couldn't know exactly how much Baby Yoda was going to take off. But they had to have some inkling because this scene is designed with our compassion for Baby Yoda to just absolutely hate these guys.
Yeah, it worked. But it just also goes to show you that, like, in this show, harming or threatening Baby Yoda in any way is an immediate death sentence. You will not live to the end of the scene if you mess with the Baby Yoda. The one exception being when Bill Burr's character Mayfeld maybe sort of like playfully almost dropped him, but like he didn't actually harm Baby Yoda or intentionally threaten. But everybody who's pulled a gun on him, dead. Punch Baby Yoda in the head, you're going to get manhandled by a droid until you're dead. So keep your eye out. Season 2 does the same thing, and then woe betide anyone who looks at that poor thing the wrong way.
So IG-11 saves Baby Yoda,
and it's brutal.
And he says, "I'm sorry you had to see that." It cuts to the main title, and we as an audience are in for a ride at that point.
Yeah. Okay, John, take it away for 2 minutes. I'm just going to be right back, y'all. I'm sorry. It's been 2 hours, and I just got to... Don't do that to me, man. You got this. I'll be back in just a minute, and then you can have your turn.
Okay. All right. Wow, guys, I am petrified. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about the next scene that comes up when Moff Gideon starts to run through the list of our characters because he does his homework. And we find out a lot of information. This was mentioned earlier that we find out Kara's full name, Kara Cynthia Dune, and that she's from Alderaan, which, makes a lot of sense why she hates the Imperials so much. My chance to see his power. Yes. Guys, I wish I could tell you just how much this freaks me out that I'm actually speaking on a podcast by myself at this moment. Or not a podcast, but a stream. Because this sort of thing would have scared me to death just a couple months ago. And who am I kidding? It still scares me. But I guess I should take this time to say I really appreciate you guys coming to tune in each week. It means a lot to always have great comments. Okay, thank you.
I'm back. Thank you. I feel much better already.
Wow, that was a 10 minutes.
All by yourself. High five, buddy. Oh, Courtney. Hi, Courtney. Good old Courtney Mazza in the chat. Nice.
Courtney.
We had a great Expanse stream last week. Courtney was a part of it. So what you were talking about, Kara
Yeah, I
Alderaan.
started to mention that before I realized that I did not want to have this topic going without you. So instead, I just started talking about my innate nervousness doing these things.
You're doing great, but you're doing great, buddy. But yes, Kara Cynthia Dune of Alderaan, which, knowing she's from Alderaan and on my second watch of the series, it made so much more sense about why she made the choices she did in her backstory to leave the New Republic service when she was becoming a glorified bodyguard, why she chose to be a drop trooper, or shock trooper, why she agreed so readily to go after the Imperials last episode. It all made a lot of sense. Um, I'm sure most of you know, but if you don't, if you're not as up on your Star Wars lore, I'll explain really quick why Alderaan is important. Because in the first movie, Star Wars from 1977, Alderaan is the planet they blow up to demonstrate the power of the Death Star.
Yep, that is Leia's home planet.
Yeah. So this is somebody who's from Leia's same home planet, and the destruction of that entire planet. Clearly, she was off-world when it happened, but it just made so much sense that she's driven by this probably deep-seated hatred. Her entire society was wiped out in the blink of an eye. Yeah, and to me, that's an interesting place to root her psychology.
And it's interesting because for Star Wars fans, Alderaan blew up in 1977, so it's something that we've kind of lived with. But if you're thinking about the timeline, this is a few years after Return of the Jedi. For someone whose home planet was Alderaan, this is still a pretty fresh wound.
Yeah, I think my understanding is this would be about 11 years after the Battle of Yavin. Because each movie is 3 years between them, chronologically. And then this is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So 3 years later is Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi is 3 years later, and then 5 years later is Mandalorian. Is my understanding. Don't quote me on that.
Well, you imagine how, even with the passage of that many years, you think about how much we're still affected by something like 9/11.
Right.
And then this is even a grander scale because it was her entire planet, and and all those people just gone in the blink of an eye.
But it was a great way to reveal that about her character, and it added a layer to everything that came before that I didn't really realize was there on my first watch. But on my second watch, I saw it the whole time. She's not. I think that maybe even leads into, John, how you were saying she doesn't read like that macho type, like a lot of times they do, because that's not who she really is. But she is motivated by a sense of like loss, and I'm sure there's a great deal of sadness in her. And again, what a great place to root her psychology. Love it. Big fan. And it's such a easy little toss away line too, but man, it just reverberates through her entire arc in the story.
And so this comes as Moff Gideon is showing everybody that he's done his homework on who he's dealing with. And so his next statement is, he says, decommissioned Mandalorian hunter Din Djarin, we find out his name. And I like this part. Perhaps he has heard the songs of the siege of Mandalore, when gunships with similar ordnance laid waste to fields of Mandalorian recruits in the night of 1,000 tears.
Great shout out there.
Now, I just cannot help but feel like this is Filoni's influence of, that's right, everybody, Siege of Mandalore coming up. Just you wait. Because we are actually going to see that in season 7 of the Clone Wars out next month. So I am super psyched about that. And it just adds a lot of weight to the history. I like mentioning stuff in a live action show, stuff that happened in animation, which we're going to get even more of that at the end of the episode, obviously. But it really shows that Lucasfilm is serious about bringing in elements from all different forms of Star Wars media.
Right. I will say I am a Star Wars nerd. One way I knew for sure was the first watch through of this. When they assembled the weapon, I went, "That's an E-Web heavy repeating blaster." And
in case you didn't know that, we're going to tell you.
Right, they're going to say E-Web, but I'm like, I knew what that was the moment I saw it, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I should be proud of that, but at least it is what it is.
I will confess I did not know, but then I became aware that other people knew after reading some stuff online.
Right. What else we got? Oh, we got a drop of something called a mind flare. Cara Dune talks about if they catch me, they'll just stick me in a mind flare. Why am I having trouble with that word? So fun. Did that mean something to you, John, when you heard it?
No, but I think I've heard something about this. So why don't you tell me what it means to you?
Okay. Well, first of all, when you hear the word mind flare, it sounds pretty horrible. It doesn't sound like something I want to experience anyway. But the mind flare is what they call the season 2 main villain of Stranger Things. And they got that term from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that is what I heard. And I also heard some discussion of, is this supposed to be the creature that we saw in Rogue One?
Oh, maybe so.
That is in the possession of. Do you remember his name?
Riz Ahmed's character, Bodhi?
Yeah, he's the one who gets it used on him. So it would be interesting if that's what she's in fact referring to. But yes, I did hear that it was a term that people were familiar with from Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah. I didn't hear about Stranger Things. That's interesting.
Well, Stranger Things pays a lot of homage to Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, it's actually it's probably one of the more recognizable creatures that was originally conceived for Dungeons and Dragons. And it's sort of like a psychic Cthulhu monster, horrific humanoid, eats your brain, takes over your body. It's pretty terrifying, very Lovecraftian. It looks like a human with a squid instead of a head. Or an octopus. They're very creepy. Very cool, too. Super smart. Good, scary bad guys for your D&D campaign. Just saying. But yeah, when I heard Mind Flayer, I instantly was like, oh, D&D reference.
And we're now led into a big flashback sequence as we find out that the Mandalorian was not in fact born on Mandalore, but he was rescued by other Mandalorians, and specifically rescued by Clan Vizsla, as we can see by their uniforms, which were a big part of Clone Wars and also Rebels. And Clan Vizsla was actually they mostly made up the organization known as Death Watch, who sought to take control of Mandalore back from its pacifist ruler in the Clone Wars. So we wonder if this is Death Watch or if it's just another faction of Clan Vizsla, perhaps. We don't know, but it's definitely that clan,
right?
By their insignia.
I'm glad you caught that. That's not something I had caught. But we do know that the sort of like heavy armor Mandalorian from episode 3 was Clan Vizsla.
Yes.
But cool, very cool. I did not necessarily know that.
Well, and especially in addition to their insignia, they also their uniforms have blue in them, which was very much the colors of Clan Vizsla. So stuff like that makes me really excited. Again, it's the mixing of animation with what they're doing in live action. It's saying that this stuff matters no matter what the form of media is.
Yeah, it's all canon together.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate this scene with it's not a race, it's a creed, and we do get the full flashback.
I am gonna rant a little bit about this because I'm a little bit worried, but it depends on how they explore it. Because I'm okay with the whole it's not a race, it's a creed, and not removing their helmets and all that if it's revealed that that's specific to a certain clan
or their interpretation.
Because obviously we've seen Mandalorians in the past in Clone Wars and Rebels who can take their helmets off, and Mandalorians are a race. They have an entire planet of Mandalorians. Maybe not anymore, but at least in the past. So I look forward to seeing how they further explore that, because I hope they're not rewriting any Mandalorian history, because I would be concerned about that.
Well, they would be undoing things that are canon, and I don't think that's the case. There's no reason,
and especially since Dave Filoni is involved. I doubt that's the case.
I do too. I think their lore will stay consistent. This will probably be interpreted as the way this group does business.
Yeah.
And it might be because after the Night of 1,000 Tears, Mandalorian culture is almost gone, so they become super strict in their way they interpret the code, and that's why they start taking in a lot of foundlings. That's why it's not a race anymore. It's a creed.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's my headcanon right now. My criticism is there was enough room for his parents in that bunker.
That thought did cross my mind.
I noticed that too, huh? I mean, it's a little thing, you know.
But it's the whole, there's room for both of us on this wooden door in Titanic.
Yeah.
It's like
Mr. Burns in his escape pod. For the love of God, sir, there are 2 seats. Yes, I like to put my feet up.
It's like they need to get to a certain dramatic point, so just go with it.
Right. I mean, it could have been done different in a way, but like again, these are my stuff is very nitpicky. Overall, I think this show was fantastic. But like, if I have a nitpick, it's just in my nature. I'm gonna say something.
Again, and this is going to annoy you as you and I talk more and more about different television and film, because you're going to discover that I like to use this excuse a lot, but I keep coming back to poetic license. It's like, to get to a certain dramatic point, if you have to sacrifice just a little bit of logic, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I'm with you.
Because the drama
doesn't mean I'm not gonna point out the logical.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
But like, I can even forgive it as the memories of a child, and clearly he can't. A person's memories are not flawless representations of what actually happened. And over the years, that's just how he remembers it. Might even be.
Yeah, I mean, you can always interpret stuff in film or television as things that we see may be biased in terms of the character you're with. For anybody who's, and I'm going to out myself as if I haven't done it already, as a period drama geek, But if anybody has gone to see the new film version of Little Women, there's a lot about that film which is subject to interpretation, whether certain things that we're seeing are actually what happened or if they're filtered through the mind of the main character who's writing a book.
Right.
So, and that's true of a lot of pieces of cinema. You can make that argument that you're seeing things through the eyes of a biased observer, basically.
Yeah, unreliable narrator.
Unreliable narrator. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And I'm a fan of that storytelling technique. You know, it allows you to lie to your audience, to obfuscate things that are actually happening in a way that doesn't feel disingenuous.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Um,
And then we find out because Mando realizes that because Moff Gideon knows his name, he figures out that that's who it is, because Moff Gideon was an ISB officer during the Purge.
yes, and ISB, for those of you that don't know, Imperial Security Bureau, which is like the secret police. They didn't handle external stuff. They were entirely an internal thing, making sure that officers and Imperial citizens were being loyal to the Empire. So not so much spies as like Gestapo almost. Yeah.
And okay, and so they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and so Mando tries to get Queel on the.
Yeah, they can't raise Quill.
And we know why, but somebody does respond. It's IG-11, and of course, at first, Mando assumes the worst. He thinks that IG-11 must have done something to Queel, which is
what did you do? Yeah.
And in fact, IG-11 is coming to the rescue along with Baby Yoda. And I wrote down here, best meme ever. That shot of Baby Yoda just grinning.
Yeah.
As they're speeding along. I think that is probably my favorite GIF like ever.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's lots of Baby Yoda memes out there, though. Like, he took the internet by storm. And how not? In the 43-year history of Star Wars, it is the cutest thing they have ever made. Keep your Ewoks and your Porgs and what have you. Give me Baby Yoda all day. Just saying. But yeah, IG-11 comes in hot, and him driving that speeder bike through the streets, like the weird angle shots he was taking on, he would drive past stormtroopers and shoot them once he would already passed them, but it's because of the twisting torso, and it's just so good to watch. So good.
It's great. I love seeing IG-11 in action, which, we're going to talk about the fact that he's not going to be in any more episodes.
Yeah.
Which, makes me sad because he's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But I
gotta bring that up, man. It hurts. It's too soon. Too soon.
I want to point out one of my favorite things about this whole sequence, and it's, it just goes on quickly and kind of as subtle as the fact that Grief keeps taking drinks.
Yes.
Throughout the fight.
I noticed that on maybe not on the first one, but I definitely noticed it the second time today when I was watching. He was like, if I'm going out, might as well, it's going to calm the nerves or whatever his logic is. But yeah, he was drinking up for sure.
Okay, and so we enter. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, Kate agrees with me. Baby Yoda wins, followed by the Ewoks.
Yeah. And then when we have, another great shootout in which two things happen, which I mentioned earlier, this was when I really noticed it, but we talked about earlier, Kara with her big gun, which is just like, she impresses the hell out of me, and I want her in every fight.
Yeah, she's definitely got the pew pew aspect down.
And Mando grabs the E-web, and he just is not messing around.
Not at all. And it was really great to see like the Death Troopers doing their thing. When they blew the door, you actually saw the concussion hit Cara Dune on the inside. A lot of times, TV and movies don't really have the proper effects of explosions. She was blown on her butt, you know.
If I have one criticism, it's probably that I think they should have made the Death Troopers even a bit more formidable. Because at the end of the day, they don't.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. That's
it's because you should really set them up to be this elite force, and I'm not entirely sure they accomplish that, because these guys should be like supreme badasses and not just, you know, just a slightly better stormtrooper. So that would be my one little criticism. But I mean, that's sort of the aspect of me where I'm pushing for creating more drama that way. But it is Star Wars, so you know the good guys are gonna prevail anyway. But yeah, maybe just make them a little more formidable. But that's aside from that, it's a great all-out sequence.
I would have appreciated that too. And then the whole like fire trooper moment, really cool. Baby Yoda like straight up force blasting fire back.
It's a moment that it's almost too much. The way they show him stand up, it's like
right.
But it's great.
And the way the music is rising as he's doing it, like, oh, we're gonna see it.
You know, this is a big hero moment, so it could go a little too far, but it doesn't, because we love Baby Yoda, and it's just a great, you know, force moment. And of course, then the poor guy passes out right after.
I see a lot of people in the chat are agreeing with your criticism, John.
I should be clear that my criticisms are often slightly different from other people's criticisms, in the fact that things don't really bother me. Right. But I just thought I might point it out. Just, it's not something that I'm holding on to as a negative.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I have to say, though, is that this was an extended action sequence, and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
All the way through. Carl Weathers didn't have as much to do, but he was still out there slinging guns. And all in all, I thought it was really, really well done. And for as long an action scene as it was, it kept me engaged, because they kept, you know, it wasn't just shooting the whole time. Other things were happening. And
well, it's like a really engaging Western shootout. I love how the show it just has fully embraced being a Western, and it has that spirit to it. And so when you got the characters coming out of the cantina, just guns blazing, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I thought it was great, but like Moff Gideon clearly knows what he's about. That headshot, then the shot to the battery pack for the E-web, he got the better of Mandalorian, and not many people can say that. He was only just barely rescued in time. And then, okay, he's refusing to have his helmet off, so he is prepared to die to follow this creed, which I think plays into, I mean, it's reflective of everything we've seen up to that point. He's not going to take off the helmet no matter what. But when we understand that not taking your helmet off is a part of the larger creed, and then even unto his death, he is not having it. We understand his commitment to whatever the creed is. He's going to follow that up into and including his death, if that's what it takes.
Stephen, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I actually just noticed. Are you using your new camera or your old one?
I'm using the old one because I couldn't get the new one to connect.
Okay. I've been so focused this whole time on our conversation.
It's all good.
So I wasn't even paying attention, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. Okay. So
okay, but the rest of my point is that he is willing to die to maintain his commitment to the creed. And then later in the episode, when we find out more about what the creed says is going to be required of him, re Baby Yoda in season 2, we come to understand, okay, well, he's going to take that just as seriously.
Yes.
And I think that's an important moment in the story for him. And
I really loved this moment just between him and IG-11. It's just extremely touching when IG-11 says what he needs to say to get him to take off, where he says, "I am not a living thing."
Right.
And then we see Pedro Pascal's face.
Yes, and there's a thing I love about this moment, and there's a thing that I think I hate about this moment, okay? So I'm just going to nitpick real quick, and I'm just going to get off of it. 1 squirt of Bacta, and he's just fine. I need me some of that Bacta to carry around with me for when I have brain damage from a firefight, from getting shot in the head. Just spray a little Bactine on it, and you'll be fine. Okay, that's out of the way.
It's a special brand, Stephen.
Super Bacta. I gotcha. All right. Anyway, moving on.
What do you love about the scene? Because let's stop talking about.
Right. I've had my nitpick. When his helmet comes off, he's got helmet hair. And that is something that a lot of TV shows and movies just don't do. Look at The Force Awakens. When Kylo Ren takes off his helmet, when he's standing on the bridge with Han Solo and he takes his helmet off, he comes out with this beautifully coiffed, looks like he just got out of the salon. You know what I mean? Helmet hair is a real thing. Take it from somebody who wore a helmet in the Army and then a hard hat surveying for many years. You wear something on your head all day.
Again, Stephen, you are not making room for the possibility of a very special brand of hairspray that he uses. Okay?
He's got, I imagine it's actually his helmet has a built-in hair dryer. So that when he takes it off, it's just like. Anyway, I digress. I kind of did appreciate the fact that when the helmet came off, he was messed up, he was sweaty, and his hair was all messed up. And
which, you know, it's interesting, sidetracking for a moment, if you want more fodder for the whole J.J. Abrams versus Rian Johnson thing, when Kylo takes off his helmet in the beginning of The Last Jedi, I think he actually does have helmet hair.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so there's more reason for for argument between the two filmmakers.
Right. I mean, it is what it is. I appreciated that little detail. It's not a big thing, but I appreciated it. So anything else? Let's keep moving forward, yo. I'm getting hungry.
I will say that I like this moment also because of how sort of unceremonious it is. Because he's laying there and it doesn't really linger on him with his helmet off. It just kind of, and he has like a weird look on his face. They're not taking a moment for like, look at how gorgeous Pedro Pascal is. Take this moment in. It's just very quick. They've showed his face and now we're moving on. But what it what it does allow is that now that you've seen his face once, you see him, every time his character is up now. So it adds a new dimension to his performance because you see who's underneath the helmet now.
Right. Well, I had suspected we would see Pedro's face at some point, and I wasn't wrong. It would be really weird to have the whole season go by without seeing his face. I think I'm glad they did, and I really liked the way they did it. And it was also a moment in his ongoing journey of not hating droids. That's probably like that's a huge turning point for him.
Yes.
Yep.
And so now that he's been healed by the super Bacta, they head to the sewers looking for the covert, and again, it's like, I don't want people to read too much in my nitpicks because I loved this episode. It was my favorite episode of the season. That said, when Mandalorian said you're going to have to relocate the covert, I thought that implied off planet and not just to another area of the sewers.
I don't know that they did move at all.
No, they did, because when they're looking for them, he's unfamiliar with that
that's
area.
because he entered from a different place. He said, I've only entered the sewers from whatever place he mentioned. I don't remember exactly where. So I'm not convinced that they moved the covert at all.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's impossible by any means. But like when he was talking about why he couldn't find the way, he had only ever entered from the market square or whatever it was.
Okay.
But that's hardly that important.
Oh, it's important, Stephen.
Okay.
You need to spend time on this.
Hold on. Where's my sharp stick again?
So they discover that the Mandalorians, most of them have been killed.
Yep. They did.
The Empire, but the armor managed to survive, as did perhaps some of the Mandalorians who may have made it off planet.
Yeah, there might be some. I tried to estimate how many Mandalorians worth of armor was in that pile, and I came up with about 8 to 10. That's my scientific wild ass guess. Swag for short. But whatever happened there wasn't pleasant for the Mandalorians, and this was a nitpick I thought I was going to have, but as it turns out, I don't think it is. On the second viewing, I feel like there was so many Imperials in that town at that point. Like there was at least 100 stormtroopers, and if we're talking about 10 Mandalorians, well, 10 to 1 odds are bad no matter how good you are.
Yeah. It works for me because we don't see it, basically.
Right.
I can buy into it that way. So yeah, I'm not particularly hung up on that, but admittedly, I'm not the type of person who gets hung up on stuff.
Right.
Like that. But
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I thought it was going to be a nitpick. After the first watching, I would have called it. I would have said, yeah, that's something I thought was kind of out of, they're supposed to be all these super awesome warriors. Well, we have seen that they're not invincible, and there were a lot of Imperials in the city, a lot of them. So it made more sense to me, and the armor being there was still really cool. I can't remember the actress's name,
and it's creepy because that's the last thing they would ever do, which is take off their armor.
Well, they clearly died, and she collected the armor of the dead.
Yeah. And again, mentioned this on the last episode. The armor is such a great character.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that she made it out of this episode.
Me too. She's another one that I would love to get more from, because she, as the leader of of that covert, or whatever you want to call it, she kind of had the motherly spiritual aspect to her, and I found that to be deeply interesting in a warrior culture.
Yes.
But you're right. She kind of goes on about more about the creed and talking about what that's going to mean for Din Djarin going forward. Gives him a signet, makes him a clan of two, and that Mudhorn signet actually looks really, really cool. And he gets the Rising Phoenix, which...
Yeah, dude, hold on. We're going a little fast.
Okay, well, I'm moving along, I guess.
Yeah, I see the time, but there are some things that I want to mention.
Well, then bring them up. I'm just moving forward. Dude.
Okay.
I'm going to have to come to
So this is another thing that raises my questions about the Mandalorian culture and the history and what these Mandalorians knew about their history, because she talks about having knowledge of beings with Baby Yoda's ability,
right?
Legends of the past, and she says that in ancient times they battled an order of sorcerers called Jedi, which is strange for a Mandalorian to say, given that the Mandalorians have dealt with Jedi far more recently in the Clone Wars era and stuff. So I just wonder
again, but like we're seeing one specific sect, I think, a subgroup that may have been separated since before Mandalore had their era of pacifism,
which is fine. Yeah, but I just want to find out more about it,
right?
And so she tells Mando that it's his duty to take. Wait. Oh, Padar.
And we got him. Thank you, Padar. We got him. All right, go ahead, John. Go ahead. Actually, I'm going to leave that up for a minute.
Yes, please. And she says to him, "You are as its father. This is the way."
Right. This is the way. And which leads back to that whole, like, the commitment he's shown to the Creed up to that point. Okay, Creed says, now I'm your dad. Well, I expect him to take that pretty darn seriously.
And so now we can move on talking about the Rising Phoenix. It's
a jetpack.
The Rising Phoenix.
It's a jetpack, and he's got a jetpack, and like, so I have this ongoing joke about the things I want when I get to heaven, and it's like, it's a jetpack, a lightsaber in seasons 2 through 10 of Firefly on DVD. But
you're gonna need the jetpack to get up to heaven.
Right. But a jetpack is like the first thing on my list. So I'm like, this is a good day. We got a jetpack. I love it.
Oh God, you're just gonna make me sad about Firefly.
All right, moving on. He does get the really cool jetpack, and then of course the armor.
And I've written down, don't mess with the armor, because the next scene is where she kicks some butt.
I have written down, armor is a badass.
Because I thought this was the cliche. She's awaiting her death, kind of like you see at the end of Gladiator with Oliver Reed's character.
Right.
But she is much more physically apt than Oliver Reed. so she's ready for them.
I mean, she got a hammer and tongs, and she works them over. It's I don't know if I would call it an incredible action scene, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, I
Watching
thought it
the,
was pretty damn awesome.
watching the armor shatter off their face, and you know, a lot of times the damage that you see done to things in Star Wars is somebody gets hit with a blast and there's a flash and they fall over. No, this is armor like breaking to pieces under her hammer. And she totally melts a stormtrooper in like a half a second when she throws him into the forge. That dude is just gone immediately. And I thought that was fantastic. I mean, it's horrific, but it's also really, really cool.
So now we have. Oh, by the way, I do want to say that aside from the fact that hope we see her again, which I think there's a reasonable expectation we might. But I do want to say what I love about her characters, what I kind of love about the Mandalorians in general is there's a lot of, I know we hate the term strong female character, but there are a lot of really badass Mandalorian women. And I freaking love that. And it is also my secret hope, actually, that we get Katie Sackhoff to reprise her Clone Wars and Rebels role. And my mind's going blank at her name right now, which I'm ashamed of because I know the character. But
are you thinking about Sabine Wren?
No, she doesn't play Sabine. I'll think of it later. It'll be too late.
Duchess Satine.
No, it's her sister, actually.
Okay, I can't think of her name. But Wheezy, or not Wheezy.
But I would love it if she would come on. But then I worry is, well, I can talk much more about that when we get to the end.
Right.
There's stuff that ties into the end reveal with that.
But Anna actually has a really interesting question. Could the armor be the same species as Darth Maul? I mean, because of the horns on her helmet. It's not something I had considered, but like, why not? It would be cool.
Thank you, Anna. Bo-Katan is her name.
Yes, correct. As soon as you say it, I'm like, yep, that's right. It's been a while since I've seen Clone Wars, though. A long while.
You need to start rewatching, Steven.
Dude, between work and trying to be ready for these streams, I don't have a lot of extra time.
I want no excuses.
Okay, well then, I guess I'm just screwed.
You have to do what I say, Steven. I'm John Boyega and The Force Awakens. I'm in charge now, Phasma. I'm in charge.
Okay, Dad. There's a lot to love in this episode. A lot. And there's even some stuff along the way between here and the end that I want to make sure we talk about. But guys, I got to get moving on this conversation because I'm getting hungry now. You know what I mean? Like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Okay, well,
you're getting your money's worth today, y'all.
Well, they go down the lava river, and we get to, let's just go ahead and talk about the big moment, which is IG-11's sacrifice.
Yeah, and like, what a great way to come full circle with the Mandalorian's droid difficulties and learning to change his outlook on things.
Oh, wait, I just want to give a real quick shout out to Beth. I'll see you later, Beth. Thanks for stopping by.
Oh yeah, bye, Beth. Thanks for coming. We ran way late, so I know a lot of you are going to have to go. It is what it is, but you can watch the end later. It'll be here. But yeah.
So it's a really emotional moment, and
yeah, it is sad because we have learned to like care about IG-11 as a character, but his ultimate goal as programmed by Quill was make sure Baby Yoda is safe.
Yeah, and he says, because he insists that Mandalorian is sad about this, and and Din Djarin says, "I'm not sad," and he says, "Yes, you are. I'm a nurse droid. I've analyzed your voice."
But like, what a great way to denote that change. Again, I'm just going to keep coming back to that. Most of you will know I love character development. I love characters' psychology and talking about their ethics and morality, and then the things that they experience in a story that will change the way they view that personal code of ethics and morality. And you do actually see. I'm still going to just call him Mando, but you really do see Mando have that change throughout the series. He's a fairly static character in a lot of ways, but he clearly comes to care about Baby Yoda, and he clearly comes to at least somewhat care about IG-11. And to hate the one you've seen as your enemy your whole life is not an easy thing to do, but it's a story worth including in the larger narrative here. Anyway, I'm done talking about that.
So, and then we have IG-11's actual sacrifice, which is the dramatic fulfillment of the joke set up in the first episode, which is his self-destruct. And it's really emotional.
It is. Oh, yeah, I don't want to. It's the most emotional I've gotten about a droid death in a while, you know. But what can I say? When they brought him back, turned him into a nurse droid, gave him some great lines, made him protect the cutest thing in Star Wars. What's not to love by that point, you know?
Yeah, but dramatically speaking, you do need that sacrifice. But we got that with Kuil already, so it's like hammering down.
It breaks my heart that Kuil and the Blurgs and IG-11, they all didn't make it, all of them. So that, the entire contingent from that planet is just they gave it all. So, yeah. but that also leads us to basically we're getting very close to the end when they exit the tunnel, and it's still not over because Moff Gideon has a freaking TIE fighter. Because of course he does.
Now, some people have said this is a criticism that Mando is able to use the jetpack immediately, but he's not completely proficient with it.
Right.
He uses it to blast himself up, and then he, shoots, his grappling hook or whatever,
right,
and goes along for a ride. So he's not very smooth with it.
No,
but he's able to use it enough to
right.
get up there.
He was able to use it to get airborne. He was able to use like a boost of it when he was retracting the grapple. You see a little bit of thrust, and he kind of catches up to the TIE fighter in full, and then he was able to use it to keep from not dying when he fell off. But yeah, I agree. It was not high proficiency use.
I have another criticism of the trailers for The Mandalorian, because they show a shot of Moff Gideon inside the TIE fighter with Mando on top of it. And they shouldn't have shown that, because this is the big final action sequence
of
the season. And everything about it should have been a huge surprise. And so once again, I'm ragging on whoever was doing the editing for the trailers.
But a lot of times that's somebody who has nothing to do with the actual storytelling.
I know. I'm just a big, fan of less is more.
I agree. That's why I stop watching stuff after I see a trailer or two. I'm just like, nope, I'm done.
I think one of the best trailers ever made is the trailer for the original Alien, because they show you almost nothing, but they create a lot of atmosphere with it and get you interested in seeing the movie.
That's what I think a good trailer should do, is to give you just enough to give you an idea of what you're getting into, but not like plot stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry. God, I'm sidetracking. We have got to
It's all good. We do get the "Hey baby, do the magic hand thing" moment, which best line from the whole episode in my opinion. Just so funny, and the
And then he
wave.
tries to.
Yeah, just so good, so good. And as you say, you know, the fight between Mando and the TIE fighter is really pretty visually epic, pretty cool to
Yeah.
watch. But it does set up after the end, and our heroes are all meeting, another great Star Wars line when Grief Karga and Cara Dune are talking about what's next for them. You know, they're going to stick around Navarro, and it's not such a bad place now that the scum and villainy are have been taken care of. And I'm like, scum and villainy,
which I have to admit, ever so slight disappointment for me. The way it wraps up very tidy. I expected them all to head off together going into season 2, and it works fine for the episode. I just wish I want to see these characters together more, because I think that they all worked so great together in these past 2 episodes. So I want to see more of those team ups. So hopefully we won't have to wait too long. Anyway, let's hurry up to the end, because a lot of people are ready to go.
Well, really, the only other I'm looking forward to having Cara Dune and Grief Karga as a team for set in place for next season. He's going to be able to get to them together. And then a cairn for Quill, you know, that gives the show real stakes. If nobody ever has any lasting consequences, it's hard for action scenes to build tension. And he was such a great, lovely character. It gives real stakes to what's to come next, and everything that happened up to that point.
Yeah. And
yeah,
let's close out by talking about the huge reveal.
Yes, the one we've all been waiting to talk about since we started.
And now we're going to have to cram in like 2 minutes.
No, we're going to take our time with this last point. It's
a big one. And it's the reveal that Moff Gideon has the dark saber.
Yes.
Which meant a hell of a whole lot to people like me who love Star Wars animation and have seen it on Clone Wars and Rebels. This is a Mandalorian lightsaber that is very important to the history of Mandalore. And whoever wields it basically is the ruler of Mandalore.
Yes, it was created by the first Mandalorian Jedi. It is a unique lightsaber artifact style weapon. It is old. It's been held by some really interesting and impressive characters, including Darth Maul at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely
one of the most epic moments of Star Wars ever, which is the duel between Darth Maul and Pre Vizsla for rule of Death Watch. Another reason to watch Clone Wars. Moments like that is a huge moment. So please, everybody, watch it. I'm begging.
Season 7 of the Clone Wars is coming out next month.
Yeah.
So now is a great time to cram it all in. I'm going to try to rewatch the whole thing over the next few weeks, but there's a lot. I might have to do an abridged cram.
And then coming back to what I was talking about earlier with Bo-Katan, because she is the last person who had the dark saber. So it makes me very concerned for her, because if Moff Gideon has it, what does that say about her fate?
Right.
So that's a big question mark in my head is, are we going to see her? Could we potentially see her in a flashback where she is killed and that's how he gets the dark saber? Or did she lose it but escape, and we might see her return?
We'll find out in season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Well, no, because we see Bo-Katan in Rebels.
Okay. Well,
so
did she have it in Rebels?
Yes, that's when she gets it. Okay. She's given it by Sabine Wren in Rebels, who gives it to her so she can be the ruler of the Mandalorians and lead them into war. And so that's the question mark. What happens after that? We know that
Right.
obviously that the purge happened, but what are the details of that, and what happened to her, and why does Moff Gideon have the dark saber? These are all questions which I would love to find out on this show, and I'm hoping they tackle them in great detail.
Yeah. So when I first saw that sort of like tail end scene for episode 8 with Gideon coming out, I thought something popped out, and I'm like, oh, of course, he's not dead. They just want to make sure we know he's not dead. No, there was so much more to that, because when you do throw in the dark saber, that is like a huge piece of Mandalorian lore and culture, and it just means that season 2 is going to be really tied up, I think, with that, because every Mandalorian would do anything they could to return that to the hands of a Mandalorian.
Yes.
Everything. The fact that it's in the hands of an Imperial, especially someone like Moff Gideon, who was during the Purge, was on Mandalore. Yeah, they're going to be not happy at all about that, and will probably be a huge plot point for season 2.
God, and now I'm just so excited for season 2.
Yeah, we a lot of people are agreeing with you. I saw in the chat a few people saying that the appearance of the Darksaber really hyped them up for season 2, and I'm no exception. We got to the end of season 1 and up into that scene, and I was like, I'm ready for the next one. This is really good, and Mando's off to find a place for Baby Yoda to go, but then the Darksaber scene, that was just a huge game changer for me. Huge game changer. But that's all I have to say about that. Is there anything else?
Anything that you guys want to mention? I don't know that we left a stone unturned, but
I'm sure we did. We never even mentioned the R2 unit that had arms and legs. That was weird.
I know I had notes about that, but just
out
of time.
We need to not cover 4 episodes of a television show at once. I think that might be
well, especially because I should have thought about the fact that because these 2 episodes, and especially the last one, were longer and meatier, that we probably should have.
We just had a really long stream, y'all. We just had a long one,
which you'll notice didn't start to happen to you until I came on the channel. So I apologize.
It is what it is. I had a good time talking about it. It was a lot of fun. Okay, well, I'm not.
Hadar almost. I almost got really worried for a second because he said this season frustrated me though because it shows that Disney can do Star Wars right.
Yeah, we're not.
We're not going to have that.
Right.
But that said, I'm glad that you enjoyed the season.
Yeah.
This was just a fantastic show, and I loved it.
Well, it seems like everybody more or less agrees. We touched on everything. So yeah, good stream, y'all. Thanks for sticking around for 3 hours.
Thank you, guys.
We normally go, but we were having fun the whole time. So yeah, I guess that's the end. Join us next week when we have our Why Fandom Matters Part 2. I'm not sure what the actual title will be, but we're going to be doing a fan culture focused stream, just what it means to be a member of fan culture, and we're really looking forward to that. We've got some really interesting points and ideas to bring up. So, and that will be with Justin Thomas, and Nessie will be back next week as well. So look forward to that. Then a week off, and then Oscar time on the 9th, is it? Yes, it's the 9th, February 9th. We'll be back for Oscars. And then don't forget, after that, we have nothing on the schedule as of yet. Of course, we will have something figured out by then. But if you've got something you want us to talk about, shoot me a message on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram. I only know one person that follows me on Instagram, and that's Wheezy. So Wheezy, if you got something you want us to talk about, I will look for your message there. So until then, though, it was real fun. John, thanks as always. You are a great co-host, and it's a great blessing to have you be part of this channel.
No, thank you, Stephen.
And to everyone who turned up in the chat, I see a lot of familiar faces, and saw a couple people who are not regulars, but I know them from around. Mara Jade is one. I haven't seen you in a while, but I was really happy to see you, Mara Jade Starkwalker. Um, so yeah, guys, it was a lot of fun, but it's late and I have an early work day tomorrow, so I am going to jump off and go eat something, and we'll see you guys next week. So until then, you know what it is. Peace and be excellent to each other.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.